Hi, I'm Lisa.
I'm Keith.
And we're friends drinking beer. And today we have a very special friend.
Special guest.
Okay, fine. What? Oh.
I mean, sometimes I'm kind of special.
Yeah, and we'll fill you in on everything later. The very first person I ever met at Alesong, and our 40 followers and listeners know that we talk about Alesong every single episode, is Brendan. So, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me.
And we are so happy to have you. Okay, rules of the podcast.
Rules. Okay.
We don't edit.
Okay.
We don't fact check.
Swearing is encouraged.
We are not for kids. So you can literally just be. And there is no prescribed. Yeah, I guess we have to tell people what we're drinking.
Right.
That's a bad thing.
I suppose that makes sense.
Other than that, it's pretty organic.
Yes.
You say what comes to your mind.
So, anyway.
So tell us about this particular
And we'll drink it out of
hash
Alesong
right
glasses. So.
Well, so this is a bottle of Peche, and it was one of the early iterations of it, and I believe this was the batch that I even helped slice the peaches.
Oh, nice.
So Peche is oftentimes just called a sour ale anymore these days. It's fermented with lactobacillus and Brettanomyces, which are the types of yeast that really give this beer the flavor it has, which is that tart kind of like acid kick. And that beer is aged in French oak barrels for months. I can't remember. It's been so long. I can't even remember how long they are in this particular one. But it's anywhere from 6 months to a year. So
It smells lovely.
I get it even before it came up to my nose. A little peach smell.
But this one, was bottled in 2020, which means it was brewed in 2019. So.
Yeah. And the color is beautiful.
And then there was fresh whole peaches, though we halved them, pulled the pits out, and those were added to the beer afterwards.
That is good.
That is very good stuff.
That's good.
And we should also qualify, because Brandon get a great explanation, but sometimes people think like, oh, if it's in the sour category, it's like all sour. There are beers like this where, to me, how I would describe it would be like tart. So it's not overly like you get mostly. I mean, you can smell the peach a lot, but it tastes like very light. You could have this with breakfast.
Yeah, this would make a good brunch beer. If you don't want a mimosa.
Absolutely, and that has actually absolutely happened with this before. You know.
Good,
So,
good.
But yes, it's a great beer, and the category of sour ale is so broad, like you mentioned, that there's so many varying levels. Some of them there's like kettle sours, which are quick turn beers. They're pretty tart, pretty sour right out of the gate. Not as much complexity as something like this, where you've got the multiple layers of yeast, the fermentation, the
aging,
the barrels.
barrels.
I mean, there's just so many layers, and then the blending, where Alesong gets the part of the name, is it's blending the beer together to get a nice balance. So
I love it, and I'd like to think because this was so many years ago, back up to 20 that I mean, you all get inspired. Like, yeah, this is good. This is going to be this year's. But later on down the road, like, yeah, this is light, peachy, fruity, would be good in the morning, and then might lean towards, like, what else tastes like peach? Maybe like a beer that is a Bellini. I like to think that beers like this kind of led to future inspirations.
Always, absolutely.
Right.
Almost everything is kind of inspiration from the other, and it just kind of keeps evolving. I mean, there was a beer years ago that was called Apricot Sky that was with apricots instead of peaches, and it had a lot of similarities. But of course, peaches, are really abundant here, and so
apricots not so much.
Yeah,
right.
Those things are so fragile.
Yeah,
so fragile. So, have I ever told you the story of my introduction to sour beer?
No.
Okay.
Do tell.
Here we go. For the longest time, I was living in the Bay Area, down in Redwood City, and I was commuting up to Berkeley to go to school. And then I was also in down on the water in Oakland, sometimes on the weekends, and there was a bar that was a room about this size, and everything in the cold cases was for sale to drink there. And then they also had taps. So, one of the first bars that I went to where the entire place there was beer. Well, every month they did a tasting. And if you wanted to go in early, you could pay $20 and you could get the private tasting. And then, later on they would do, little bits of public tasting. So I said, what the heck? I don't know beer very well, but I like it. So
$20 is $20.
$20, right?
I mean, it's kind of worth it.
You're tasting all these different beers. So I don't even remember the other beers that were tasted, because the second she poured a sour, that was the first time that I drank a beer that I fell in love with immediately.
Like, I don't know what this is, but I love it. Right.
But whatever the sour and taste buds and the whole connotation, I fell head over heels. And this must have been in 2006, 2008. Mm-hmm. So, craft brewing wasn't as big a thing. Sours were not even existent, right? No one even really knew what they were. And so I had to keep going back to that bar.
Yeah.
Because they always carried a sour. But that was, it was great. And if you sat on the porch, the street's right here. There was an intersection down here. So, you could go buy your beer and then come back out and sit on the porch. There was a warehouse that they had converted into lofts. Mm. And for about 3 months, all I did was tell my husband, we need to buy a loft.
Let's buy a loft.
So that I can walk from this bar to my space, so that I don't have to drive, right? So I can really drink. But we never bought that loft. But it was all because of sours. Oh my gosh, they were so good. And I've been in love with them ever since.
I feel like people have this attitude, like there's absolutes, like you either love it or you're like, no, I don't drink sours. But I think there's a happy medium, because like I just stopped telling people, like, oh, you like sours? I do. Oh, then you like all sours. I'm like, no, that's not true. I'm just saying I'm not one of the sour haters. Like the first time I had a beer that it was like, I think it might have been 10 barrel, or it was like a cucumber sour. I'm like, I'm not going to like that. I like cucumbers, but you eat it. And I tasted it and I'm just like, okay, now I get it.
One of Oakshire's standards is a cucumber.
Yeah, Oakshire has one too. Mm-hmm.
So, it's, which is the joy, right? You just get to keep tasting. Keep finding out if you like the next one.
Do you have an aha beer for sour beer? Was there one that stood out to you at some point? You were just like, oh, wow, that's the one.
Well, the cucumber one was unique. I do like Oakshire's, but I think it was like now that I'm picturing the label, it was 10 barrel. And they came out with one because that little cucumber one got really popular, and then they came out with a mango one. I'm like, okay, and it was like that little mix, because people think mango, like, oh, it's got to be sweet. And they're like, sweet and sour. I'm like, oh, this is good. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's it. That's it. It's the sweet and sour, which doesn't surprise me, because, like sweet and sour food, like sweet and sour chicken and stuff like that. So in
there's a reason we like it.
It's that little combination. Like, people are like, I like things, spicy, and you like chocolate, but chocolate spice doesn't work, and then all of a sudden, like, boom, yes, it does.
Yeah, so the sweet and sour, it's an instant balance. So that's why we love it. Mm-hmm. My first aha beer for sour beer was probably around the same time. It was like 2008 or 9.
Nice.
And it was, I was sitting at a craft beer bar that's very similar to something like the Beer Stein. Mm-hmm. And back when I lived in Omaha, and somebody was pouring beer from New Belgian Brewing Company out of Colorado. And it was a beer called La Folie. And it was a beer that was aged, I believe, in like French foeders, just like Alesong. And I had never had any sort of tart sour beer or anything like that. I don't even think I'd really heard about that. because at that time, especially in Omaha, Nebraska, you're not seeing a whole lot of fancy beer.
Still, maybe.
They're coming around. They're coming around.
We don't know the current status.
So I had a sip of it, and I was instantly hooked. Yeah. I was like, "Wow,
what is this
complex,
flavor?"
The flavor, it's just like my brain couldn't figure out what was happening, and then I just fell down this rabbit hole for a few years of Belgian beer. And Belgian beer had complex flavors, and I could find that at bottle shops because they often imported, some of the standard things like Saison Dupont, like Duchess and things like that, and. Absolutely.
She's a fan.
Fell in love.
Huge fan of the Duchess.
I love Duchess too. And the thing is, when I'm forced to, like, you've got to tell me, like, what do you have a favorite? I'm like, I don't like to have a favorite, but if I have to pick a favorite style, my favorite style is our Belgians.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love Belgian beers so much, so good.
I like the broad farmhouse term. I like, because you never really know, right? If it's they're following the farmhouse kind of. It may be more terroir-y, right? Where it's they're just letting the local area do its thing, so they do taste. They can be very, very different with the same ingredients.
I like farmhouse really cool. Because y'all are like mad scientists. Like, let's try this and let's put this flavor.
Yes, I feel like Ale Apothecary to me. They are basically farmhouse.
They do it too.
Wizards.
But I like to think. It's just how my mind works. I'm just like, all those people out there, like, I don't like beer. Give me a cider. I like wine. Like, ooh, beer. And I'm just like, it's kind of like some people say, like, I had shrimp one time, so like I don't like seafood. I'm like, that's it? You have one shrimp and said, I don't like any seafood. Like, you're comparing shrimp to oysters to crab. I'm like, you have no idea the world that you're saying. So what I love about the farmhouse style is that, like, I'm convinced the people are like, oh, no, I don't like beer. I'm like, you like wine, right? Yeah. Do you like a variety, like some dry, some... Yeah. I'm like, I guarantee you there's a farmhouse beer out there that will turn you. So I look at farmhouse as like the gateway beer.
So when are you stepping into Alesong? I mean, it sounds like you got a good spiel going on just right now. I mean... I've had
they work very hard to get rid of us. Every once in a while, like, okay, you guys have been here too long. Out, go.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I've had thousands of conversations that you just talked about. People that have their own preconceived notion of what beer is, and the preconceived notion is what they experienced in their life. It could be a multitude of things. It could be their dad drank Old Milwaukee for so many years. That's all I really know about.
And they had a warm one. They're like, yeah, that's all the beer.
Yeah. Cool.
Room temperature Old Milwaukee, so I don't like it.
Thank God that's not the case.
Right.
But it could be that, or they had a sip of something that was, surprised them, and they're like, ooh, I don't know. That doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Here's a double IPA for your first beer. Yeah, not Coors Light or a lager. Like, try this. Like,
I think like what you did, doing that $20 tasting is something that everybody should do that. Especially now, because even like 20 years ago, there was like nothing around that was even remotely like what we have today. That's readily available in
Agreed. And that's what we have no idea where the people that are watching this are located, but we always
they need to expand their palate.
Yeah,
get out of Nebraska.
If you can't get an Alesong beer in whatever state or area that you live in, go find the local brewery. Go find them. Go see what they're doing, and find
they mix it up.
Yeah, they do some. Every local brewery, it's operating for a reason.
Yeah,
so they're doing something correctly, and let's go ahead and support them.
There's more.
There's more. So, my husband and I moved up here in 2017, October. And I think...
That's when I moved to Oregon. So.
Yeah, and I think we walked into Alesong almost a year later.
Oh, yeah.
Right, because we were here, we were doing, and I had heard and never made the time. So we drove out there, and Brandon was behind the bar, and it was a dead afternoon. It was probably in the middle of the week.
Yeah,
it was probably a Thursday or Friday. So
and that's when Alesong was pretty new at the time.
Yes,
so it's like
we'll
just leave the doors open and see what happens.
So, and I said, so we literally ponied up to the bar, and I said, "What do you have?" And I don't even remember what you poured.
I couldn't tell you.
Right? Yeah, neither could.
I could actually probably figure it out by going through like old menus or something like that.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna. But whatever it was, I was hooked, and it's been a love affair ever since. So yeah, so that's. And then, how did you find Alesong?
Well, so I had been in the beer industry prior, back when I lived in Omaha, working for craft beer bars, working for beer distributors, everything. And when I moved out here, didn't really have a plan for a job. I just wanted to not work for a few months because it was so hard to get out here. And when I was mountain biking, I was out where Alesong's location is in the country, and there's a mountain bike trail called Y Pass out there. Amazing. Some of the best mountain biking so close to home. And
it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
It's out in our winery, one of the top winery spots around Eugene. It's like between Eugene and Veneta, which is right where he's talking about.
Yeah. And at the time, there was no place to grab a beer right afterwards. Now there is. But
Nice.
While I was driving out there, I saw this kind of building that was under construction, and I was kind of curious about it. And I was like, I wonder what's going on there. And then did some Googling and found out that, it was Alesong Brewing and Blending, never heard of them. And they had a little warehouse in the city. And so I thought, okay, well, they're having a little release party. I'm going to go see what they're all about. I'm curious to see that the name intrigued me because I already kind of knew what blending was and all of that. And I was like, okay. So I went to the release party, and the beer that I had there that I remember was called Strawberry Symphony. And it was actually a beer that was not barrel aged, because at that time there was some beers that were not aged in anything, and some of that was due to the fact that some of this stuff takes a while to age. And it's like, we got to sell something. So while I was there, I really enjoyed the environment, talked to a few people, and I saw a sign that they were opening a location, and I was like, that's the place I drove past. And I was like, okay, this is cool. So then I decided to buy a few bottles, and one of them was called Tangled Up in Blueberry, kind of, off the Bob Dylan song, and it was made with blueberries, as you could imagine. Not enough, though. So if you guys are watching this, there wasn't enough blueberries, but you've well made up for it since then.
So heavy on the blueberries.
And then the other one was called Cherry Parliament, and that was the first Cherry Parliament. And once I had Cherry Parliament, I knew instantly where they sat in the beer world, where they were headed, what they were going to do. And at that time, I knew lots of Belgian breweries that had a lot of similar flavors. There was Jester King down in Austin, Texas, who makes a lot of this style of beer. And I was just starting to explore some of the other breweries in town, in Oregon, that were doing this, like Apothecary, Beer de Garde. And so then, okay, I'm excited about what they're doing. Who knows how it happened, but it pops up on my feed that they're looking for somebody to run their tasting room, and I was like, well, that's in my wheelhouse. Well,
I can do that.
I already really dig what they're doing, so reached out and applied for it. Had an interview with all three founders, which that was the first time that's ever happened, and it was fun. We had a good time chatting. I remember there was a question that they asked me, which was kind of a curveball question, and I was like, ooh, sneaky. They said, so, we make beer and all that stuff, but we don't always drink this beer, like if we're out working a long day bottling or something like that, and let's say we opened a cooler and there was, some, domestic beer in there. Is that something that you'd be okay with? Or, what would you choose out of there? And I'm just like, oh, that's a curveball, right?
Right.
They want to see
First,
they want to see if I'm snobby, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Or they want to see if, whatever.
The beer snob matrix.
So I just said, there's a time and a place for every beer. And so if I'm hot and sweaty and I'm floating down the river, I'm not taking a bottle of Alesong, but I'm going to have one when I get home,
Which is the correct answer.
So, we had 2 more interviews after that, and then lo and behold, that's how it happened. And
nice.
They wanted me as their tasting room manager. So fun. And it was a wild, wild ride. So.
No, it was.
Yeah.
So your story reminds me of, and it's beer related. This is not some random tangent.
We go on rant. Since when do we apologize for not talking about beer?
That's something that'll segue.
Oh my gosh, some of the tangents we've been on.
I stopped in just to grab. I think they had something on tap. I think it was just like a growler fill. I wasn't going to stay there and drink at Falling Sky, which we also love. And I walk in there and I'm like, "There's something going on over here," and I see 3 young people, just younger than me, which doesn't take much. I'm like, oh, it looks like a book signing. I'm having this and da-da-da-da-da. And like something about not that they're looking at me like, oh, look at him in there, but we're just a little eye contact. I'm like, all right, now I'm interested. I'm like, I read. I'm like, what kind of book is it? Like, oh, well, we're all big into hiking and we love craft beer. So they got together and they wrote a book about all the different hikes. And you're like, yeah, Keith, there's plenty of things about hiking, but no. It listed like the degree, like, the elevation and how close you were to a place where you could get craft beer. I'm like, wait a minute. You're not just giving people hikes, but then once you're done, because much like mountain biking, you get done after our hike, like, let's have a beer. At least one beer to rehydrate and things like that. So I was just like, I hike a little bit. Like, I have to get this book just because it was related to craft beer.
Yeah.
And so your story told me that. I'm like, so now somebody should do that because there's people. There's a mountain biking, culture here in Oregon too. Like that'd become a nice thing. Like, here's a good mountain bike route, and here's the closest place to get you a craft beer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I did get the book.
You did get the
book.
I'm
like, I have to get this book. And they're like, do you want to sign? I'm like, hell yeah. Because I go, there's a story behind this, and it needs to be told.
Well, and look at this. It's being told now. It's perfect timing for this.
Right. So I thought about with your story. I'm like, yeah, you're like, and the connection. Just the connection. Like, I was just up here mountain biking. Like,
it was funny because after Alesong did open, we saw a lot of mountain bikers. It became a thing. You know, and this was that what we just talked about, where people are like, well, I'm either used to this beer or I'm not really into beer or whatever, and it's like, oh well, this is totally different. Let's have a conversation about it,
Right.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I'm sorry, I went to go find my hiking and beer book, and can't find it.
You can't find it. It's somewhere buried in the library.
It's buried in the library. But yes, I have baking with beer, so it's desserts and then matching beers, and I have hiking with beer, and but it's the hiking ones are really fun because that's one of the best things to do is to drink a lovely beer after your exercise.
Oh, totally. I mean, I feel like it just goes hand in hand.
Recharge your electrolytes.
Yeah, there is some truth to that.
It's going to make that beer taste better.
Now, I'm not saying that, like a 16% beer may not be the most hydrating afterwards.
No.
But like a nice, 3 to 5%. Absolutely.
All righty. Next beer is, as far as I understand, quite readily available in most states. This is a very widely imported beer. So, and
Maine, Iowa, New York, Vermont, Florida, Oklahoma.
Oh, that's just where,
like, Keith, how do you
where
know
it can be
this?
recycled.
I'm reading.
But you're right. It's available just about everywhere. Yeah.
Okay. So.
What a head you have on this.
I know. It's crazy. So, Saison Dupont. It's a very recognizable label. And it's a farmhouse brew. So that was interesting that we were talking about it. It's a 4-star world-class example of Belgian Saison style, increasingly rare specialty originated before the age of refrigeration as a beer to be brewed in winter for summer drinking or spring. So we're close enough. Style required a beer sturdy enough to age in the bottle, but refreshing enough to be enjoyed in warm weather. Saison Dupont fits this description perfectly. Big fruity bouquet and a dense head. Oh, yeah, well, we saw that. The taste starts fruity but ends dry and very clean with a light, refreshing body. And this one is, I said 6.5%. So, yay for that. And it's a great beer for people that just want to test, something that's standardized.
Yeah.
And but I love the smell. It smells so clean, and I always have a couple of bottles of this in the house because it's just It is good. This is the one I'll drink after working in the fields all day.
If you didn't tell me, like, hey, just have this beer, and I had to guess, I would guess Belgian.
Yeah.
That would be my guess.
Yeah.
Something about it. It's like, there's immediately the malt, which I love, but not over the top. Because people hear malt like, oh, it means it's sweet. It's not sweet. It's part of the balancing.
Yeah. It gives it that dense flavor.
Oh, it does say Belgian Farmhouse Ale. You probably said that, and I was just tuning out.
You were being you.
I do that, like, word, clickety-click. Beer.
Yeah, this is a classic. I mean, this is what a lot of breweries would model their beer after, like their Farmhouse Saison style beer.
Yeah.
Classic.
And they should, because like I said, it's a good standardized, just great beer. I'm afraid it's heavy and it'll collapse the box, but let's hope it doesn't break all my glassware.
That's just too good. That's just too good a beer.
I know it is. It's really good, and they're right. It's it's first summer drinking because it's a little bit lighter, but it's got a good body to it that I just really enjoy.
It's like that crisp, the little, like there's no, it doesn't give you time for an aftertaste. It's like you get it on the front and then it's gone.
Yeah, it's nice and quick.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, it's very like effervescent. It's got this perfumey kind of aroma from the yeast, which is pleasing.
This is one that we should probably drink around the fire for marshmallow nights. This would be a good one to have because it's light enough, but then it's dense enough to stand up to the chocolate and the marshmallow.
Right, and this almost makes you think like, I wonder what food pairs with this because it's it's a little bit more bolder than the Peche, but like it's like
Niçoise,
you're drinking a beer.
A Niçoise salad.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right,
absolutely,
because you've got the protein because you can have the tuna and the egg and the bean, but yeah, I like it with a nice hearty salad. So,
yeah, I've been to beer dinners where that's been the pairing. It's some sort of salad of some sort.
Yeah, so it's really fun.
Years ago, I got the opportunity to go to this brewery and try it straight from the source, and this is exactly how it tastes. People say, like, does it taste any better there? I mean, like, elevated because you're in a location.
You're right there and you get from the tap.
I mean, this is the same flavor that I remember from being there.
Oh, that's fantastic because Guinness does not taste the same.
Yeah.
Guinness, well, and we know Guinness sold in America is made in America. Guinness sold in Europe is made in Europe. And
we don't get the European Guinness.
No, we get the American made Guinness.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a different taste. It's heavier. Mm-hmm. It's heavier in Ireland. So.
Well, what do you find, speaking of that example, Brandon, between a beer that you can get in stores or bottle or can versus the tap? What would you say is the difference between why some beer like, nope, this tastes exactly the same, but other places are like, wow, this tastes nothing like what I had out of the tap?
Oh boy, there's a lot there.
Does it depend on the style?
Okay, so here's my personal opinion on beer from the tap or from the bottle can or whatever. So I think most beer that is like hop forward, so we're talking pale ales, IPAs, double IPAs, like anything that has any sort of like bitterness or citrusy quality. That beer that's sold in grocery store, for example, most of it is already expired. That's my opinion. Because in a lot of beer distributors and even some breweries will say that 3 months is like roughly the shelf life for most hop forward beer.
Okay. Yeah, they're not meant to be aged.
I think that quite a lot of it, especially in most grocery stores, are already outdated, and you can taste it. And a really good comparison, not that you'd want to do this, but the oxidation that happens, basically tastes like wet cardboard, wet paper. But if you wanted to taste wet paper, crumple up some wet paper, put it in your mouth, and then taste that beer. I mean, like, it tastes very similar. And once you figure that out, it kind of like ruins you from grocery store beer. So that's why you go straight to this brewery. straight to the source. Or you get it on draft, and because on draft it's like a big can. Cans are great because they do protect from light sources, heat, which is great.
Right.
That as well. And then just kind of the way that they're stored as well. They're usually stored always cold. Mm-hmm. That's not always the case at some stores. So sometimes it's in a warm storage and then it goes into a cooler. But overall, anything that is dark, so stouts, porters, brown ales, even some malt-forward red ales like Irish Reds, those are good. Those are great. They can last 6 months. They can last a while because there's not a whole lot to destroy there and cause any sort of off flavor. So,
I also think there is subjectivity.
Yeah.
So you're expecting it to taste different at different sources.
Oh yeah.
So it does. Right. So even with whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, I wanted to. Well, if I had it on tap first, I'm like, okay, I like this beer. Like, okay, I hope it tastes as good in a can or a bottle. It's not like I'm like, oh, this is gonna suck. Not even close. No, I mean, I want it to taste the same. So, well, actually, a lot of it is desire. Like, if this tastes just as good in the bottle or a can, and it's a place where I can get it, I'm just gonna buy more. So, it's that hope.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to that specifically, like when I used to sell beer for a beer distributor, I sold bottles and I sold draft. And for example, if I was selling like a beer that was bottle conditioned, like something like Alesong or Saison Dupont or something like that, and then there's the draft version. The draft version usually isn't bottle conditioned. It's force carbonated, so it doesn't have this like slight added kind of like quality to it. So you probably wouldn't notice like right away, but if we did like a side by side, you'd be like,
I can tell there is a difference.
It's not bad. I can just tell the difference.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Don't know what it is, but yes, there is.
Yeah.
So that actually happened last night.
What happened last night?
I stopped by the beer garden simply because we love the beer garden. We love the beer stein too. But like the beer garden will have these themes. Now everybody expects a theme like around like St. Patty's Day or 4th of July, but they have their like bacon, boneyard, and bluegrass. You're like, okay, you just went with the bees, but like all their little food carts did something bacon inspired, and they're like, oh, like so with the boneyard, it's going to be a tap takeover. And I was just like, I'm going to stop by because bacon. Have to.
Yeah, they do this every year. Too,
right. And so I happen to be that, and all of a sudden I get that tap on the shoulder, and I turn around, and it's Rick. And so Rick's not going to do solo with me. Rick brings his crew. So he introduced them, and it's like, here's this guy I give crap to on camera. And he goes, and Rick being Rick, like, what are you drinking? And I'm just like, what do you think? He goes, well, I know it's not IPA. I go, that's where you're wrong. It's a triple IPA. He's like, what? Because he loves IPAs, and I'm the pickiest because like there's only like 5 that are decent that have ever been made. Write it down. Anyway, but one of them
send any complaints
right
to him.
So Boneyard, which is huge out of Bend, their what would you say their flagship would be? Not Diablo.
Probably RPM.
RPM, yeah, RPM. People love it. That's their thing. And when you get somebody who's excited about it, it's like, Keith, try this IPA, that IPA. I'm like, I don't know. And then a friend of mine goes like, I think I have one that Keith will like. And he goes like, try this. I'm like, okay. And this is the first time I was, I almost said Hop Valley. It's not Hop Valley. What was I just talking about?
Boneyard.
Thank you. So, it's been a long week, people. It's Friday. Like, where was I at? Yeah, the mind is going.
Your life did not change as much as mine.
Right, but anyways,
you have no excuse.
So I was in the big one, the newer big Boneyard, and they always have plenty of it. And so I tasted it. I'm like, oh my god, what is this? And he goes, I knew you would like it because it's a triple IPA, and because like I give IPAs crap. Like, oh, I'm a double IPA. He goes, twice as bad. But the triple IPAs, as everybody knows, because they have so much hops in them, they have to triple up on the malt to make it balanced, which usually makes triple IPAs delicious. And some people stay away from it because of high ABV. But I'm just like, oh, this is so good. I go, I have to remember what this beer is because like Boneyard has a ton of them and it's notorious. And so when I saw the little tap taker, I'm like, you're looking at the little thing. I go, do you have notorious? And like, yeah, right there. It's 16. I go, give me some of that. So Rick was like, yeah. I go, yeah. I go, occasionally they make a good IPA, and this was it. And he goes, well, what do you think? I go, and then that led to this conversation. I go, I feel like it's a little different than what I was at. He goes, the last one you had. I go, yeah, on tap. I go, but this is on tap. It's just, they brought in kegs from Boneyard. But I go, it's not bad. But it's like we were just saying, it's just different.
Yeah.
And then Rick, we can't just like, sit there and have a beer and I can meet his friends. He's like, no, I want to know how, Keith. How is it different? I'm like, well, I go, I suppose it's a little bit less sweet. And I go, I don't want my mind to go there like this is somehow less malty. Yeah. Because it's still notorious. It's still if they're like, do you want to come look at the keg? Oh, doubter. It's really notorious. But I go, it's just a little bit less sweet. I go, it's not like I'm going to dump it out. I'm still going to drink it. But I go, I loved it when I was at Boneyard. And this is like, yeah, this is good. I go, this might be the only one, though. So,
yeah, the only one. Yeah. I always want to try the beers on nitro.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Always want to try those. And so,
because they're smoother.
Public House had a good dark on nitro yesterday. And my niece, Brittany, she's so funny because she's willing to taste every beer. And
great.
She always has an expectation of what I never know. Because even if I just put this in front of her and said, taste this, she'll taste it and she'll say, that's not what I expected.
Like, what did you expect?
I didn't tell you a thing about that beer. Yeah. But and every once in a while, she really, she doesn't say that. She says, awesome. And so she same thing, had something on nitro at one point, didn't really like it, thought all nitro was the same.
It was bad. Like,
right? No, I said it's not the beer, it's the process, right? So anyway, so she tasted mine and probably went and bought one too. She's like, this is really good. And of course, do I remember what it was? No. Because I'm not as good as Keith. I don't take photographs of the menus and post them on our Facebook page. Yeah. I don't do any of that. I know.
But here's the thing. I've run into people that don't like nitros just because to them it's flatter.
Oh yeah, I definitely heard that before.
And I'm just like, I go, you say flat. I go, to me it's smoother.
It's smoother. The bubbles are tighter.
Yeah, right. And so it gives it that creamier quality. I really, one of the best ones is on nitro, which is so funny, is Mexican like style lager beers. They, for whatever reason, I really like them when they're on nitro.
I don't think
it gives
I've ever
them
had one like that.
Cleaner.
It's pretty rare. They usually do it with stouts and porters, but
but that's what's nice about Public House, because generally they'll have a lighter and a darker.
Huh.
So you can get one of each, and sometimes those lighter beers on nitro
some of them do. Some of them
really open them up, and whoa, okay, these are really, because you can just whatever the nitro is doing in there, it is.
Now, have you had any cask beer?
So in Redwood City, and this one I have the hat from, so I actually can go look at my hat.
That you were there.
And but yes. They were, and full on English style, the poles.
The beer engine.
And it was so interesting because I would go down there every once in a while and have a beer. And one day I was there and they had a beer still on cask that I had tasted before. And I said, oh, I'll have a glass of that. There was, the look on my face, and he said, what the heck? I said, it tastes like I am drinking like dirt you swept up off the floor in the beer.
Good description.
Tastes dirty. There's something weird. They pulled the cask. They changed the line. They did everything, and the taste did not go away for me. Yeah. Everybody else was tasting, and they're like, we aren't. It was just something about it.
No,
triggered whatever, and I said, why don't we just move to another beer? Because obviously it's me. It has nothing to do with the beer. It just has to do with my interaction with it.
But it's the same thing, like the style. So I had no idea, because I'm always interested in, like, if I'm in a new town or a different town, like, let's find the local brewery. And I went in, so it wasn't Bend, it was Redmond. And so they have, shameless plug here, it was like Porter's Brewery. I'm like, my last name's Porter, gotta go. They probably should give me a free hat or something, or a beer.
Porter drinking Porter.
It didn't work. They thought it was a very funny joke, but I got nothing free from Porters. But anyway, I went there, and they're like, and the lady came out, because there wasn't a very big crowd there, but they're just like, oh, do you know what cask strength is? I'm like, and then my friends are like, oh God, here's Keith that's going to go down this rabbit hole, and he's going to take notes because he's a nerd for beer. And they're explaining, I'm like, so this is like beer, like back in the 1800s, something like that. And I'm like, pour, and she explained it to me, and I go, if you didn't tell anybody, they'd probably think like, is this beer? I mean, I don't want to knock it because we're right here where you're pouring it, but like, is it a little flat? Like, it's not all the way flat. Like, it's good, and the flavor's good. So I can see people that like, this isn't exactly my thing. Yeah. So you feel like, oh, this is probably what it was like to get beer out of, like, a barrel. And like, I know it's beer, but where's that effervescence? And there's less of it. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let Brandon take it out.
No. Okay.
I mean, you're right on with that. If you walked in and you ordered a cask beer and you'd never had any sort of cask beer, you
like, what are you doing?
You'd be like, there's something wrong with it.
Right? Yes.
Which
it is a very different style.
Compared to nowadays, yes, there is something wrong with it. There's no carbonation the way that we experience carbonation here. Correct. But there's a brewery down in Oak Ridge called Three-Legged Crane, and they have cask ale. And a lot, like half of their beer is all cask beer. And it's, it's delightful. It's great. They used to be called, I think Brewers Union was what they were called prior, but now they're Three-Legged Crane.
That sounds vaguely
You got to try it now.
Yeah, you got to try it. It's great. I went there after skiing, and
nice.
It was refreshing. It was, the carbonation wasn't really there, which I already knew and expected. Right. And I was just like, gosh, it's just really refreshing. But it's funny, every time I have one, I always have this feeling of like, I'm drinking history.
Right, it is. You feel like this was drinking beer in the old days.
Like olden.
Sure, like maybe some of it, just isn't as exciting as what we experience, in most of the beer. But it's just something about tasting history. Yeah. You're just like,
it is fun.
That recipe is like history.
Yeah. Wooden tap.
So
only 3 glasses. Cleaned out with a dirty rag.
I want to go back to Porter and Porters.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a girlfriend who's traveling for business, and things were not going well. So she checks in to her hotel, and she's making it known that, she's exhausted. And so whatever she was putting off to the person who is checking her into the hotel, something got across. So the hotel check-in
this
person...
This bitch needs a beer.
said, looks like you've had a rough day or, whatever. And so we've complimented you and upgraded you to a suite. So, this lovely young person's going to escort you up the hotel and to your suite. And, we hope you have a lovely, calm evening. Okay, so her name is Julie Wynn, and she was checking into the Wynn Hotel in Las Vegas.
That's why they're kissing her ass.
There is no relation.
Yeah, no connection.
No connection.
Okay.
But
you get an upgrade.
They erred on the side of caution. And just said, okay, obviously she is not having a good day. We're just gonna, And it took her until the next day.
They're like, why am I getting
figure out? Oh, she did, because once again she had a horrible travel day.
Take note of that,
whatever. But it was so funny.
Yeah, take note of that, Miller Brewing.
We might be important.
Which actually is funny. So a couple of years ago, I went to Sheboygan.
Oh, Sheboygan.
And while I was in Milwaukee, exploring.
Dad was born and raised in
we were checking out some of the local places there. There was like a German beer hall that had been there for like 100 years. I mean, it was really cool. And then we're walking down the strip, and all of a sudden there's like 4 or 5 really rambunctious young people just like having fun, doing things. There's flags and things. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And it was Miller Brewing Company's like rep team. And they were handing out Miller High Life to everybody. And so I said, hey, you know what brings me to Milwaukee? And they're like, what? And I was like, a Miller family reunion. That's why I'm here. And they're like, really? And it was just the
cousin Brandon.
It was one of those moments where you're just like, this is why beer is great. It brings people together.
It connects people.
So fun.
And it was so
That's
fun.
sweet.
So, yeah.
That's very sweet.
That's a good story. And I love I love traveling, but one of the things that make me proud of Oregon is that if like people from the Midwest, kind of like Brandon, are like they're the nicest people you meet. If you don't ever travel around, you go to the Midwest, you're like, how come everybody here is so damn nice and happy? And it's weird.
They don't want you to leave.
Right. Yeah. Stay with us. Right. Stay with us. Drink with us. Yeah. But what they're proud of is not only the cheese, it's the beer, especially in Milwaukee. Yeah. And so I love a couple of people who I just met. I'm like, yeah, come on out to Oregon. Like, yeah, we know that like we're like it's Milwaukee, like home of the all domestic beer. You go like try our craft beer, and they're all just like, all right, I'll come back. So I love that because people like oh yeah, because when we love craft beer, we're like, oh, let's travel, because now as craft beer has grown, there's now meccas.
Yeah,
like there's mecca, like people are like, oh, if you're going to Colorado, like, oh, go to Denver. Like people are like, no, we need to go to Boulder. Like, why Boulder? Because that's the craft beer. Like San Diego, it's just weird to me. Like, okay, like now we need to go to San Diego. Why? Because you missed the sun. Well, yes, we do miss the sun in the winter in Oregon, but just like that's people talk, and it's wonderful to go someplace. And by the way, I went to it wasn't Milwaukee, but it was in Wisconsin. I went there for like a water.
There's a lot of cities in Wisconsin.
water park, but it was like, I'm an adult who loves water slides, and but the cheese is good. Like the mac and cheese. The mac and cheese. You ever go to a mac and cheese restaurant? Oh my god, it's like
cheese curds.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, so good.
Right,
so good.
But get out, travel, go to where the different craft beer is.
Alrighty. Sorry, Rick. So on our last episode, Rick brought Oakshire, Hellshire 5.
Oh yeah, so way back.
It was Matt's last beer that he brewed
while he was at Oakshire.
Okay. 9 years ago. Jeez. And we opened that beer and drank it.
And so we said, like, oh, we'll hold off the Brunch in Hell.
Yeah. So, we were kind of hoping that they would host Brunch in Hell again this year, and sadly they did not. And we don't know why, but we hope that it comes back. So, yes, Oakshire, Brunch in Hell. I got this one at the last Brunch in Hell. Brunch in Hell. Yeah, that's what it's called. I was like, am I mixing?
Listen to words? All the things that go into this.
Okay. 14.7%. This is the Vintage Series, and this was bottle number 15 of 96, and I believe it was bottled in 2023. Brewed for the Beer Stein, our second annual Brunch in Hell celebration, streaming limited release is hand-bottled and numbered and only available at the Brunch. Aged for 22 months, a single Heaven Hill bourbon cask. The beer was finished on organic maple syrup, coffee from Farmers Union Coffee Roasters, cinnamon, vanilla beans, and cocoa nibs. Hell has arrived just in time to eat. So yay for that. I love this beer.
So everything you'd have in a brunch, and even though you hear like coffee, I smell it, I don't taste it.
I know.
So I taste
because we are not coffee.
The maple.
And this is a heavy coffee.
Well, I'll tell you, this beer, that description, hits every button.
Nice.
That's like
nice.
One of
Then
the
you
best. I mean, this
are
I
the
have,
person
I have never had it
to be drinking this.
Oh, this is your first time having Belgian Hill?
Yeah.
Oh, get ready.
Great.
But
I know.
Not my first rodeo to this stuff. This kind of stuff.
Oh,
rich and chocolatey.
Oh my gosh, it's better than it was last year.
Chocolate velvet.
It's
so the fact
good.
that you let it sit for a year maybe it gained in complexity.
Yeah.
And I'm not that I'm looking for it, but I have yet to have a bourbon barrel aged in Heaven Hill barrels that was anything other than delicious. So when this place was like, oh yeah, because
I know I feel like I should go drink Heaven Hill bourbon.
It's good. It's good. It's good.
Because I'm not a bourbon person. I'm not a spirits person. Recently, been trying to get into gin a bit more though because of Beer Garden Bramble. Those gin barrels with that gin profile was so amazing. But I might have to go to some Heaven Hill.
And this is kind of why some people go like for bourbon. They're like, oh, I'm a single cask, Well, for beer, this is the cask, but like people like a single batch versus like what's the difference?
Yeah, so it all came from one place. There was no blending in this one.
Yeah. Which I know there's some beers where maybe it was aged in Woodford Reserve, some of it in Heaven Hill, maybe some of it in Four Roses, and then maybe it's all blended together. It just depends. But this is delicious. This is
so good. The other one that we rediscovered that this reminds me a lot of is Vin to the Abyss, right? Where it was okay, but for whatever reason, it didn't make the impression. And sorry, people, we've been told the story because we drank it a couple shows ago. But I opened one, they put it on, I don't know what it is, and then I was like, wow, something's happened in the last couple of months where it just got smoother and richer and everything.
Let it sit, age a little bit more.
This one really, I wish I had another bottle of it, but oh well. It's prosperity. I can go back and watch this if I ever want to relive Brunch in Hell.
There was a beer that Alesong had done. It was called Four Pirates. It was a Belgian quad, which is more of like a malt forward kind of Belgian beer, higher ABV, like around 10-11%, and it was aged in rum barrels. And I actually have one of those rum barrels at home, which boy, that thing was sticky of molasses and everything. But anyways,
all the sugar.
Anyways, that beer was so hot when it was first like sellable. Right. It was like, wow, boozy. After like 2 years in the bottle, oh my god,
nice and smooth.
I've never had anything like it to this day, and it was like. Kind of reminded me of Bananas Foster. Kind of reminded me of like caramel, and just like
caramel is my caramel and maple.
Even though it was like 14% or something, you couldn't taste a single drop of alcohol in it at all.
See, that's why I
admire what Vin is tasting like
people who have the discipline to like once it's in the bottle, like to sit. Like, I'll touch this in a year or 2 years. I'm like, but it's there.
Which is why I store his bottles.
It's right there. Why would you not?
I'm really good at forgetting about things like that. So for me to like age beer, totally fine. I actually remember there was a time I brewed beer and I had it fermenting in the closet, and I forgot about it. And so it just kind of went bad.
Oh no!
Which can happen.
Yes,
that's a horrible story.
I was like, oh my gosh. It's okay. It was an experimental batch. It was like a gallon. Yeah. So I was just testing out a recipe. So it wasn't a total waste. But,
right. You didn't waste an entire barrel.
But I was like, see, this is the problem.
Yeah, you found something in the closet.
I'm great at aging beer. But I got to remember to like do something with it.
Right.
Correct. Yeah. No, wow. This is really...
Yeah, this
is so good.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of Farmers Union Coffee as well. They're such a fantastic coffee roaster in town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're a town.
Lisa's like, I imagine they are.
Yeah, well, I know you guys aren't coffee drinkers, but.
Well, I think I'm even worse with coffee than I am IPAs. Like I've had a couple IPAs that I haven't had any coffee that I've liked until one time the true coffee aficionado. Her name's Valerie. Lives down in Brookings with Billy. Thank you, Valerie. Said like, I think you need to have this. And I, waiting for the coffee and bitterness. I'm like, this is good. What'd you do to it? Mm-hmm. Did you put bourbon in this coffee? And she's like, no, it's a dry roast. And then light roast. Mm. And then so she explained to me the difference. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I don't have to be drinking coffee that's going to make me like that for the next 3 hours. But it has more caffeine in it, but it has less of the bitterness. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, so I go, it's kind of like seafood. It's just like I haven't had it done the right way.
Yeah, that's right.
I just haven't had it done the right way. And then like, oh, so there's a light roast. And I think she put just a little bit of like, the flavored creamer and like that. I'm like, that's good. There's none of that bitterness. So I'm like, okay, I can be down with it. And I kind of wonder if all the coffee-inspired beers that we've had over the years have kind of led me, is like, kind of get my palate used to it.
I can see that.
I still hate coffee.
Well, I know.
I hate everything about it. Right. I drink it, but it has to be masked with a shit ton of milk and sweet stuff, and just because.
Give me 6 packets of sugar in the raw, and then some caramel.
Here's my one plug. My one plug
coffee is so gross.
For coffee. Okay.
Okay,
so,
go for it.
My one plug. Folger sucks. And they're speaking of great quality beer. Mm-hmm. The same goes for coffee. If the coffee is high quality, and what I mean by that, there's certain varietals out there that are just amazing. They bring out flavors during the roasting process that you can taste the coffee, no bitterness. You'll get cherry, blueberry. You'll get these really fruity qualities, and none of the harsh bitterness that you get from most dark roasted coffees. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just amazing because it really changes the way you view coffee. It's like I would never drink, just Starbucks, but, something like Farmers Union, they have amazing coffee out of a lot of the ones I've tried. They're fantastic. Their Ethiopian varieties are just...
Well, there's places where like Kona coffee, I've heard that's good. But like somebody said, like, well, if you had coffee, like if you're overseas, like in France or Italy or Spain, it'd be different. And I kind of get back to the whole Guinness thing. I'm like, I feel like we're missing out. I feel like we have like you're giving me the shit coffee. I'm like, oh, I don't like it. And somebody goes like, now here's real coffee. I'm like, oh, that's good. It's not bad. So yeah, we need more quality. Is basically what it is.
My palate isn't.
Well, no.
I don't have a very refined palate.
No, but think about the tiramisu truffles. You don't like tiramisu. And when Carla brought the tiramisu truffles, you're like, that's really good.
No, I didn't taste it.
Yes, you did. It's documented. It's on the last episode. I'm like, you're like, it's verified.
Yeah, I just...
Yeah, because you don't
I am not going to spend the time to find a coffee that I might like because I don't care enough to do it. I guess
right. It's like, why would I do that? Why do I have to go through 10 beers of that kind of beer before I feel like, oh, the 11th was good?
It's
glad I tasted all that ass.
Tea is that way for me, where I like kind of like tea,
right?
And I like to experiment with new ones to see if I like it, and most of the time I'm like still somewhat disappointed by it, and I'm like, this is why I don't drink tea, but I'll still experiment every once in a while.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. Tea is, I like it.
So what you both need to do is complain often and a little bit louder, because some people like to prove me wrong. I don't know why that excites people to prove me wrong. I don't argue, but people are like, I'm going to prove Keith wrong, and somebody And
please come on the show.
Prove it. Prove it. It's like a game show.
Welcome back to
Prove Keith Wrong. Like, what? It's awesome.
It's like Black Jeopardy.
Right, Black Jeopardy. Everybody wins. On to the bonus round. But no, a friend of mine, I'm just like tea. Like, it's just tea. I have to doctor it up. I have to put sugar into it. And I'm like, there's people who are real, coffee, tea aficionados, and they'll do the kind that you do in the little filter.
Oh, you should have seen the setup that was in my kitchen on the counter when my friend Mike was up, because he's they're from all different countries, and he talks to you, what do you like, and this and that, and what's your favorite profiles, and so, and he pours the different teas into different teapots.
Right.
He heats the water to different temperatures.
Because it makes a difference.
Blah blah
It
blah.
does, yeah.
And sadly,
right, you're like, oh, that was really, wow, that was really
sorry,
intricate
Mike,
what
I
you
couldn't
did and all the
taste the
steps. Like,
difference.
it's just tea.
I
But
know,
no,
it's terrible.
a friend of mine, actually from Portland or Beaverton, you have to be careful what you say because you'll offend some people. But it's just like, oh, you got to try this cinnamon tea. I'm like, I like cinnamon, I'll try it. But then I had it, I'm like, oh, that's really good. And I realized, like, that's the first tea that I haven't put sugar in it. I'm like, there's a tea that's so good it doesn't need any sugar. I'm like, this is a magical
sugar
tea.
in my tea. But I'm a chai. I drink a lot of chai.
Right, but chai, yeah, because love that
it's
flavor.
heavy and cinnamony, and
right.
So it doesn't need that.
But that kind of like I made this tea and it needs nothing.
Yeah.
So.
Calling, and I'm ignoring you because, oh shit, did it just restart the recording? It just went to 5 seconds. Oh dear.
Gotta stitch it together.
I don't know how.
French drinking beer. Welcome, Brandon. Thanks, Brandon. Like, subscribe, and share. The end.
Oh my god.
Your mom's like, I didn't know. I was just
now I have no idea. I was keeping track. I think we were at 50. Who gives a shit? We don't care. You're like, 1 hour cut off.
No. Now you have 2 episodes.
That's right.
The second episode is just
people are like what
5 minutes.
Like,
right?
what the hell's the bonus episode? You're going strong, and then just cut off.
It's like,
my
mom calls.
my
Go to
calls.
next episode.
But yeah, there's something to be said about, a person's flavor palette. Of course, we're thinking beer. But the same thing with tea and coffee. It's like
food in general.
We just have to get there. But I love. See, now you're gonna have to go back and watch the episode because you're like, I don't like tiramisu, and you're like, Carla, this is so good.
It was Euphoria chocolates.
Euphoria chocolate.
Okay.
Yeah, they were
truffles
really good.
And they were really good.
Yeah.
But I'm like you though with the tiramisu. It's like the cookie wafers are like soaked in coffee.
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
If you're offering like here's 5 desserts, like if it was one of them cheesecake or chocolate mousse, I'll take that.
Yeah.
But this is really good tiramisu. Go enjoy it.
Was there ever a food that you didn't like, but then you tried it maybe a different way or something like that, and your mind was changed?
Oh, for the world's longest time, I couldn't eat Brussels sprouts.
Oh, okay.
They tasted so shitty and so nasty. And then I was in biological anthropology, and he handed out these little tiny, they look like miniature sticky tags. And so he handed out one to everybody, and then we all had to put it on our tongue. And half the class spit it out, and the other half of the class looked at us like we were nuts. And it's your taste receptors. So it's that real bitter. And he said, of all the people that reacted, how many of you like Brussels sprouts? None of us like Brussels sprouts.
No.
Because it's that bitter. So I didn't eat them forever because they were just, it was so gross.
I used to call it briny, but I'm like, it's that bitterness.
It's that bitterness.
Yeah.
It's my husband's favorite vegetable. And so I don't know how many years ago. Oh, it's when the restaurants started offering roasted Brussels sprouts as an appetizer, where they browned it real good, and they're tossing them in some bacon grease, and they're doing something. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll taste one, and that bitterness wasn't there. Yeah. And now I ate Brussels sprouts today for lunch.
Yeah. So it's ironic that she mentioned this. I don't even know if this is recording. So if it's not recording, you don't have to repeat this. You don't have to hear it again. But I think I've told this on recording, and it is.
We're at 3 minutes and 7 seconds, so apparently it is recording.
Okay, so it is recording. All right, so I'll make this quick. And it was Brussels sprouts. I'm like, the thing is, I'm trying to wrap my mind around it. Somebody goes like, "We're gonna smoke Brussels sprouts." Put bacon bits and olive oil on it. I'm like, that's everything I like. It's got to be good this time. I'm like, it's that bitterness. I'm like, God, I want to like it because they're really healthy. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. I just don't like Brussels sprouts. And people are like, I don't like mushrooms. All right, you just don't like mushrooms. I'm not going to force them on you. I went to a beer pairing dinner at BJ's, And one of the courses, and you're like, you've already paid for it, so just have the dish.
Yeah.
And like,
because if you don't like it, push it off to somebody else.
And they brought like a Brussels sprout and kale salad, and I'm like, there's Brussels sprouts which I've never liked, and kale which people tell me don't eat it. It's not worth it.
It's in the same family.
It's the decoration on your Red Lobster, plate.
Right.
And so I bite into this. I've already paid for it. I bite it, and I'm like, oh my god! I'm like, it's delicious. I'm like, where's that bitterness? So I called over some of the wait staff. And I'm like, I don't. They're like, oh, we're glad you like the salad. Salad. How do you get excited about salad? But I go, I've had Brussels sprouts 8 different ways, and it's always nasty. And I used to say it's briny, but it really the bitterness. I go, what did you differently? And they said, what didn't you like? And I said, is it briny? He goes, it's the acid. So they go, this is a strawberry vinaigrette, which cuts the acid, which is like I go, so this whole time, all I needed to do was cut the acid.
Sweet and sour.
And all of a sudden I like this. I go, people have been doing it wrong. It's like, I've had 8 different kinds of shrimp. Did it have a little brown line in it? People have been feeding you shrimp shit. There's no other animal that like, you want some chicken with some chicken shit in it? You won't like it. So like have some real shrimp that's deveined. It's literally on the package. And I'm like, oh my God. So you cut it with that. And then like, so now I like the flavor. So there's my story about the food.
And yet it's all in preparation.
Right. Yes. The prep.
And it's about food balancing and flavor balancing. Yeah. And that comes right back to beer, coffee, tea, and food.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So do we have 1 minute? Should we do our goodbye?
I don't know. We can do whatever we want. We can.
Well, no, it's recording. So.
Of course it's recording, so who cares?
Well, I thought you said there was a countdown like from 3 minutes or something.
Oh, no, we're at 3 minutes. We're not. We were at 50-something minutes when Mom called, and now we're at 5 minutes and 42 seconds. So it's recording.
Oh, recording. Oh, I thought we had like a countdown, wrap that shit up.
No, we don't have to wrap shit up. It's fine.
Not that.
Sorry, the camera crew behind here. They're giving us a signal, but we're okay.
We're annoying.
They'll wrap that up song.
We're the stars of the show. Hello, Keith,
that's
Lisa.
True.
It's friends drinking beer.
That's true.
Also the producers.
I'm the producer, I guess.
Not on camera is Brent, our IT department.
But he only makes sure that I can actually do the things that need to be done to get it posted. But who puts it up? Who rewatches it, takes the notes, and then posts it up on YouTube?
Oh,
so that makes me the producer.
Yeah.
I have a lot of hats. Oh, speaking of which, update. I got a job.
Yeah,
I've been working.
Cheers to Lisa getting a job.
Oh,
I've been working 7 years. Yeah. Well, when we moved up here, the farm and the whole bit. But anyway, things being what they are, I put myself back out in the workforce. I sent a resume yesterday morning between 8:30 and 9:30 in the morning. Then was puttering around doing some other things. Checked my email. There was a response to one of my resumes. Can you come in? Sure. What time? I could come in this afternoon, 3 o'clock. Okay. Sat down at 3 o'clock. At 3:20, she said, "You're hired." So awesome. Back in the workforce.
What kind of work are you doing?
But there will be no decline in the quality
and operations
of blueberries.
She's like, do you know how to manage a building? Yes, I know how to manage a building. Guess who's unclogged so many toilets? Guess who's cleared leaf litter out of gutters? Guess who's... Don't ever let an engineer build a building. Because engineers, every once in a while, believe that they're also architects.
Oh, yeah, true.
And the number of pitches on the roof and not paying attention to the water. Oh, my gosh. You know how many leaks I dealt with. Anyway, that was a long time ago. So, yes. But it's here in Springfield. And
well, hey, congratulations.
Super. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Congrats.
So, yeah. So... That being said, Friends Drinking Beer will come out at least once a month, if not 13 times a year, because I'm not working nights.
I was going to say, what's your shift going to be, your hours?
I work 11:30 to 4.
Oh. All right.
So there's going to be a lot of early morning disc golf and early morning running. And then they're right in Springfield, so it takes, dash in takes me 28 minutes to get there.
Those of us who have to work until 5 don't expect us to be at like it's 4:30. Where the hell's everybody else when I'm here drinking beer? Gotta give us a little bit of time.
That's okay. You know me. Guess what's always
You can pregame.
attached to me or close to me? Why that would be a book or a tablet that has a book on it.
Yeah. Read a book.
You know it's fun? Going to a bar, drinking a beer, and reading a book.
Read a book about hikes and breweries that are close.
And breweries,
Yes. I know.
I should
I
bring it
have
on the episode.
in that library, so I have no idea where that book is.
You should
bring
it.
I'm going to bring that book on the next episode like that, and the author's going to be like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, we should bring all our beer books.
I can't believe Keith actually still has that. It's signed. I'm going to show everybody's signature. I'm just like, everybody like, have you been on hikes? One. But the whole point is you can go, and then right after the hike, go to some place that's like close. Because it's close and have a beer.
I'll pull out my beer and baking book. It's really cute, and they do some good pairings, and we've done it before, where I've made the cookies and then paired it with that style of beer. It's really fun. Oh, we should do that. So
tune in the next episode.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that. Maybe
I will.
Maybe we'll start going through the book and just making the cookies. That'll be fun. Give me something to do.
Books and cookies.
Books, cookies, beers.
That's a good one.
Beers, boats, and hoes. Cookies and books.
I realized I haven't cussed yet. Fuck.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, and
it's all about the comfort
for about
level.
the first 12 episodes, I was like, my obligatory black friend.
Right. Everybody, we were like, is this a thing? Is this the theme?
And then,
can we laugh at this?
Like, I'm here in the room.
Still in the room.
Stupid black person. Now your brother's going to get mad at me. I'm so sorry.
Yep.
Anyway. You drink 14%
So, in honor of Black History Month.
Oh, black beer. Black beer, yeah.
Oh, see, this is a good sign. When the glass is coated.
Yeah.
I know. Are you seeing these
coated?
lines?
Are
you seeing these lines?
So good.
That looks really good.
Usually wine snobs are into this, but good lines.
Don't you love this? Drought zone, flood zone.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
I have been a little particular about my barware, so
check out those lines.
Yeah, nice, very nice. So that's Falling Sky, and then this was my Delirium. Beerstein served me a Delirium beer in
this glass,
and I come back to the table, and every Monday night we all meet. So I come back. I was like, you guys, look at this glass, and to a person, every single person said, stick that glass in your purse. They expect you to steal them.
We know you're going to steal, so
no,
just do it while we're not looking.
I could buy it online. I couldn't steal it.
Okay, so I've dealt with lots of glass thefts in my life.
Okay, so what's the expectation?
Well,
don't make eye contact.
That you are going to steal it, and we really don't want you to.
So I worked at this Belgian beer bar. We had for every type of Belgian beer, and that brewery, if they made a special glass for it, we carried it. Yeah. So we had 50 different types of glassware, all unique, different styles, Delirium Tremens, Saison Dupont, all those different things.
Right.
And I would say at that time, I did not know how much they had cost, us at the place, So then when I turned the tables and I ended up being the one selling the glasses to bars. I'm like, oh, now I see what's happening.
Right.
So I can basically give these glasses away if you buy some of our beer, that kind of thing. And these glasses are literally, they do cost money, but
they're the loss leader.
They're being split between the brewery and the distributor and that sort of thing.
No, I couldn't steal it from Beerstein.
The truth be told, they are expensive.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, they're not cheap.
They're not cheap.
But these are so cool.
But those are so cool.
They are very cool.
Yeah. And just so this is documented, I still haven't figured out while in Oregon, all right, we can get like 3 different Delirium beers. You get the Beerstein, the Beer Garden. Why can't we get Delirium Red in Oregon?
I know. And
explain.
That terrible news.
Is that not here?
No, Delirium the Red, the elderberry and cherry, which is by far our favorite.
Oh.
What?
So every time we go to California, we do
a beer run.
You do a haul.
Right. So we go to Picker Barn.
Me and my
Expo,
brother are like, here's 20.
My husband,
do it.
my husband, he's been sussing tequila for years, so he finds the places. Well,
Liquor
there's
Barn,
one
right across the border, California. Well, not right across the border. But
Yeah, we
California.
don't. Well, that All Star Liquor is the one that's right across the border. But
Oh.
Liquor, the one down in Reading. So every time he went, he would just clear out all the cans of Delirium Red because Keith, Ken, and I like that beer, and that's basically my. And Merlin. Merlin loves it as well. The last 2 times we've been there,
it's out.
no cans.
You know why? Because it's awesome.
No cans.
You'd sell
Or they're
more.
not ordering because now what they're doing is the big. So I have it in the fridge. It's the stoneware pint, Delirium Red pint, but it's not the same as a can.
I guess we got to try more Delirium, but
It's
shame on
flavor,
you
but I decant the right size.
for
like
depriving
if I
people
pop
of
the
what
can
they
at
would
5 o'clock,
drink
I'm
and
done
love.
by 7:38, because I just sip on it all night. But oh man, I don't.
It's
want
so good.
I don't want the big club.
Yeah, my favorite Delirium is Delirium Nocturnum.
Yes, that's good.
That's one of my favorites.
Well, we can get it here.
Yeah, Nocturnum you can get Noel. You can get a couple others, but
All
yeah,
right.
the red,
We'll
the
do
elderberry and
Nocturnum.
cherry, you just can't get. I
But
don't know
the
why.
red, it's
The St. Bernardus
So good.
Christmas.
Yes,
No, I think we've
tasted
done that. Yeah, we
We've
did it.
done that.
Yeah.
That one's delicious.
It is
Yes.
delicious.
It was
oh my,
very,
malty goodness.
Holiday spice flavors.
Right.
They did
Right.
it. Yeah, because we did at
Perfect
Christmas.
balance
We did
and
holiday
spice.
beers, and Bernardus was one of them.
Oh my god, it was
So
good.
fun. You're gonna have to go back and just watch all of
I
these.
know.
And then
All
you're
right.
gonna have to send us notes like you are so wrong. Here's where you really
You want me
should
to
have
fact check you?
Yeah, that's right.
Not really, but
It's possible. All right,
All right.
so we're gonna wrap this up.
yes.
Friends drinking beer. I'm Keith. Lisa.
I'm Lisa.
Special guest.
Brandon, who will probably be back because he needs to come in the summertime so we do marshmallow.
Figure out how we can
Fire
get
pit
Delirium
afterwards.
Red.
Yeah.
It's a shame. It's a travesty.
I know it is.
So I'm
All
going
right.
to have to track down some Delirium Red, is what you're saying.
Always,
Oh,
wherever
it's-
you
if
are,
you can
if
do
you
it,
can buy it, we'll buy it.
you know,
we'll
You'll
pay
be
got
it.
the
connections.
Oregon. You'll be the Oregon example of Indiana Jones. I don't know how he did that shit.
I'm not sure
found it.
there's not a beer I haven't been able to get. So
Nice. All right.
there's a-
Take care, everybody. Happy February. Oh, Black History Month.